Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 10th episode of Just One More Podcast. We've made it to 10 episodes. This is September 18th of 2022. We've got John from My Brain on Games. How are you doing, John?
I am tired. Went to a family reunion this afternoon with my family and had a lot of fun, but
Just got the kid down?
yeah, chasing the little one around. A lot of people say, "Oh, you did a good job." You're wearing him out. Whenever he takes naps on car rides home or whatnot, it's like, listen, I don't wear him out. I just provide the opportunity for him to wear himself out.
Yeah, I just give him the tools to, do the work himself.
Yeah, give him some toys or give him some open area to go run. He will tire himself out.
Yeah. And of course, I am Jeff from Just One More Level, and for the most part, I have largely gotten over this month and a half of sickness that I've had. Still occasional cough, but pretty much everything is back to normal. So I'm much more energized, much more just, raring to go. So I figured before we get into the games that we've been playing over the week, I know you said you got a beefy list of stuff that you've got. What did you think of Konami making that little Suikoden announcement?
Oh, it's very good news. I have not been as down on Konami as other people have in the past. Following their messy divorce with Hideo Kojima, and of course they've gone through a period where they haven't really put out a lot of games, but there have been some quality collections where they're mining their back catalog of titles and allowing some other people to do good work with it. So I've always kind of had a soft spot for Konami even through all the mess. So it's kind of no surprise while at the same time being a surprise, because it's like,
Yeah.
the Suikoden series, this is one of your guys' prime, one of your choice back catalog entries that even if you don't make a new one, because who's there to make a new one, but even if you don't do that, just re-releasing the old ones, or like in this case, remastering the first two, hey, that's going to be in my mind, a win.
Yeah, and I mean for me, we talked about it on the previous episode, of just some of the potential things that Konami could do, and my interest in Konami really got a little bit of a spike when news broke about them redoing the I think trademark for Suikoden,
Yeah.
or license for the name or whatever.
Yeah, renewing that trademark in Japan, and I think we sent it to each other on Twitter, and even I was like, well, even the people writing this article say, hey, that doesn't actually mean anything new is coming, or this is just something they're doing to maintain that copyright, that trademark.
Yeah, and then it happened. Suikoden 1 and 2 getting the remaster treatment. Not quite a remake, They're just doing some quality of life improvements and just bringing it to modern platforms. Which one thing that definitely stood out when they were showing off the first game, and for anybody who played the original Suikoden, it struggles to hold up. It's an older RPG. The gameplay mechanics are not exactly fine-tuned by today's standards, but one thing that was shown off was with Suikoden 1 being able to run diagonally. I think is going to be a big thing, because I remember it's been a while since I played the first Suikoden, but pretty much only having access to up, down, left, right for being able to move the character around, whether inside your castle, on the world map, all that kind of stuff. But when they showed that they are allowing the character to run diagonally, I saw people on Twitter just being like, yes, finally! As far as quality of life improvements, you got a pretty good thing when just adding the ability to run diagonally is one of the big things that people are focusing on.
Yeah, but then I guess that also speaks to what they're doing. I don't running diagonally. I don't see that finally quality of life.
Yeah.
This game, the way it's meant to be played now.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can run, uh, you know, northwest, southeast, like sweet.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I haven't read up on too much of it. Just basically saw I think one bullet point list of all the stuff they're doing. And I think the neat thing is actually redoing the character portraits and having the original artist redo the character portraits.
Yeah. But yeah, that's I saw that and I was just like, oh, this is making me hopeful that they will do some similar things as far as like remastering 3, 4, and 5.
5 especially, just since it's so expensive.
And
Like
it
3 and
isn't
4.
available.
Yeah, 3 and 4. Actually, 1 through 4 were published digitally on the PS3. So those are
Yeah.
still available for purchase, as far as I know, as of today. And that's how I played 1 through 4. Actually, I have copies of 3 and 4 because those were never too expensive in the
Yeah.
2010s, whatnot, to find used. But of course, 1 and 2, 1's not super expensive, but 2 is very expensive, and similarly so is 5.
Yeah, and it was I think you had shared, yeah, you had shared a tweet that what was it, a former developer for Konami had stated like back in
Well,
2015 or something, or someone who worked for Konami, or
yeah, former public relations person.
and pretty much saying that they had no plans, that Suikoden was pretty much dead at Konami.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're citing like lack of sales or lack of interest in the West, essentially, in Europe and North America, which again, like kind of being like the Konami defender here. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, if you look at probably like most JRPGs from that time frame, they probably did not sell very well over here.
Yeah.
It seems like, if, in my mind of the industry, just like a layman's view, not actually looking at the numbers or anything, I think there's probably like, well, starting back at the very beginning, with like Dragon Warrior and Nintendo like gave that game away with Nintendo Power subscriptions to try and get an audience for it. And I think there's probably like a baseline popularity of JRPGs from like the NES through the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis era. And then Final Fantasy VII came along with the marketing and like the 3D visuals. Like, okay, there's a big spike. And then after that, I'm sure it started tailing off again to where then you get to the PS2 era, one of the golden ages of JRPGs. Just tons of great games coming from so many different developers. I'm sure, though, that they weren't all selling weren't all selling terrifically well.
Yeah, well, and just kind of just kind of based on my own experience with the Suikoden franchise, like 1 is definitely serviceable. It's a good game. It sets the stage for Suikoden 2 pretty well. Suikoden 2 is amazing. I love Suikoden 2. For me, Suikoden 3 is kind of a
the best one in this series.
I couldn't really vibe with it very well. It was fine, but for some reason it just didn't quite like. The game is good. Like there's no doubt about it. Like I'm not arguing the quality of the game, but for just I don't know if it was just how with it having the Trinity system and 3 different stories and just how it all kind of played out and missing out on 2 little side stories and stuff. Like every time I talk about 3, the thing that I like the most about Suikoden 3 was Thomas's story, and that didn't last long enough. Like,
yeah, I mean, it takes the backseat to the other 3 that make up the Trinity system, the actual 3.
Yeah, like Chris
for me,
and
though,
Hugo and
that game was. I've only played 1 through 4 so far, and I've played them all relatively recently. Since around the Iodine Chronicles Kickstarter. But for me, 3 is so far the benchmark best one. For me personally, I'd say maybe 2 is a better game, but I like 3 more. Because of the gameplay systems, all of the skills and the way they interact with the runes, like the mix and match of that, and then just the ability to like how deep you can take that grinding and customization.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a good game. Like there's no doubt about it. It just it didn't. I don't know. It just didn't quite, pull me across the finish line as far as like like my favorite of the series. So it's definitely something where like
Yeah, I mean, we talked in the past, like, man, if they just made like a game, a spin-off of 3 that was just the Thomas bit, like that'd be perfect.
Like,
that'd be great.
because the thing
Give us
that I
more
like
of that sort of management sim portion.
Yeah, because the thing that I really like about the Suikoden games is being able to go out, recruit people, and see the castle change. See your headquarters change as you bring people in, see what shops get built up, see what the blacksmiths are doing, see the farming and all that kind of stuff. Like, and that was Thomas's story. Like, you were building up this castle, and I think it was only two chapters or something.
Yeah, so 2 or 3.
It didn't last very long, and I don't know, but. For me, like while I was playing Suikoden 4, like I think Suikoden 4 is like the shortest of the games, I think.
Yes.
But I like the concept of all of the naval stuff, but it was just so
empty.
Yeah, it was empty. It was bland.
That's the one I finished most recently, and going into it, I thought, okay, this could be like the coolest one because like one of my favorite games is The Legend of Zelda: Wind Waker,
and it was not that.
And it's one of my favorite games because it's got this large ocean where there's basically like an 8x4 grid or something, and basically every square on that grid has a cool, unique island or something to do. So I was thinking, okay, this is going to be about the same thing. There's just going to be this big ocean. There's going to be lots of stuff
all
to
this
explore.
Exploration.
And then there's like 5 islands.
Yeah, and like so so Suikoden 4. I'm pretty sure that I know some of the pushback with Suikoden 3 was like, well, it doesn't look as good as Final Fantasy X, and it's releasing after so many good-looking games and stuff, and so like graphically it was kind of panned. But Suikoden's never been a graphical powerhouse type of franchise.
1 and 2 had pixel art graphics on the PlayStation.
Yeah, but I think that compounded with the fact that Suikoden 4 was just so bland, and it was just very boring, and the Snow, oh my god, Snow being one of the whiniest characters, one of the characters that I just really, he wasn't even the antagonist of the game, but like he was just so awful every time
he's
that
a terrible character.
Every time anything was involving that character, you just knew that he was going to stab you in the back for some dumb reason, and it just like even when you spare his life, like he still finds a way to just be like, oh well, you just had to make me look like the bad guy. I should have killed you. So I think Trent, like the 3 came out, it had the graphical thing that people just were like, oh well, it's not looking as good as blah blah blah, and then 4 just being bland and whatever. Tactics having its issues, which I don't like Tactics.
And that's the one I've got queued up next in the series to play, and I'm interested to play that for one, just because I'm interested to see their take on that genre, and then for 2,
cool concepts.
Because I am interested to see Snow, like Snow and the protagonist of 4. Go back, they have a history together. That's not really touched upon much in 4, but it is essentially the crux of Tactics, if I'm not mistaken. And just like the little, like the the hour we played, just checking it out a couple months ago, it's like, okay, I am actually kind of interested to see how different he is portrayed here.
And to be fair, I did not make it very far into Tactics because of the element system or the terrain system in battle. It's after I don't know how long I played, but like several. I definitely tried to get through it, but it was just a situation where like you would change the terrain, and before the terrain was ever beneficial to you, the enemy was able to like change it back, and it would be detrimental, and then just the turns would just take forever, and I grew tired of it very quickly. So I'm curious to see
this
what
would have
you
been
think
in
of
like our pre-Fire Emblem days, right?
Probably. Well,
because that would have been before playing Sacred Stone. So maybe you'd come to it with a different viewpoint this time.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, Fire Emblem has definitely grown as one of my favorite franchises. especially
just
after
saying,
kind of getting. But
yeah, I'm just saying like pre-Fire Emblem, basically, like a pre-Sacred Stone playthrough. Like I feel like my approach to tactical RPGs and my opinion of them has shifted radically from before playing that and kind of understanding, basically succeeding in one, to now to where it's like, okay, I love this type of game.
And I think so with the the fans of Suikoden enjoyed 3. The new people jumping on to Suikoden didn't seem to really like it. 4, I think, was a big down point for the series. Tactics, I think, kind of kept it down pretty low. So by the time that Suikoden 5 came out, which I think is, in my own opinion, I think 5 is very much tied with Suikoden 2 as far as like the best in the series. But 5 just had so much stuff to go up against. Like at that point, the next generation had already started. The 360 had already been out for almost a year at that point. All of the hype was building for PS3 and the Wii. It came out in 2006, like early 2006. So like the franchise had already taken its lumps, and then it was up against like the next generation of hardware was had already pseudo started, and the next 2 players were introducing their hardware. So 5, despite being such a good game, couldn't really turn things around, and then Tier Crisis on the DS was not very well done either. So I think it was just kind of a massive combination of things that caused Konami to be like, yeah, we're gonna sideline Suikoden because we just can't seem to gain any traction with it. But I'm really hoping, like my fingers are crossed, that they are planning on. But I guess then the question becomes, how would they do other remasters? Because they've got 1 and 2. So then would they do 4, 5, or 3, 4, and 5, or would they do like 3 and 4, and then maybe like Tactics and 5, or would they just leave Tactics alone? Like
I could see them probably, because 1 and 2 are so connected, and 3 is connected to 1 and 2, but it's not as clutch. Like, it does have a save transfer mechanism, but the things that come over as a result of that are not as major as 2, and even then, the stuff that comes over from 1 and 2 is not really that major anyways. But I could see them doing a standalone release for 3. I think, ideally, if they continued on with this, it'd be neat to see another bundle of 4 and Tactics, since they are so connected.
Yeah, much more connected together.
And then do 5. But I think we're putting the cart before the horse here, because we gotta wait and see what 1 and 2 do first. And yes, ideally we'd see them go through the whole series. Personally, I want to see them do 5, just because I want to play that. I don't want to pay $200 to play it, and I'm not going to. You have a copy. I'm going to borrow it when the time comes. But I would love to be able
super
to
protected.
I would love to have been able to buy it digitally, like I did with 3 and 4 on the PSN for like $10, $8. Like,
they never got around to putting Tactics on there, did they?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and Tactics. I could see them not even bothering with Tactics if they continue on re-releasing the old ones, just because it is a spin-off. And, it was not a spin-off that was especially highly regarded.
Yeah. I mean, outside of, like, kind of what you said is kind of, like, lumping it in with a Suikoden 4 remaster.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be a great pairing.
Yeah. But, so I thought that was great. Like, Konami is really, really rolling, and I was very happy to see the remasters getting announced. So in 2023, we've got Suikoden 1 and 2 remastered, and then we've got Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes coming. So
Suikoden fans rejoice.
Yeah, like from a decade of nothing to, 1 year you're getting 3 games. So I'm excited. But outside of that, with the news there, I have not completed Killzone Shadowfall. I'm still playing Killzone Shadowfall.
Oh, you texted me how poor the story was. I figured, okay, well, he's probably just gonna knuckle down, get her done. But no, you still have a thread going.
So with Killzone Shadowfall, I think I'm playing on the second to the hardest difficulty. And the game, so with Elden Ring, it randomly dying, I got used to it. I still got frustrated whenever it would happen because it's like I've played this game enough that just the stupid deaths would make me frustrated. In Killzone Shadowfall, it is such a mediocre to bad game. Like now I'm reaching the point where even the gameplay is starting to have issues because guns are just not being effective against the enemies, and I'm like they're throwing so many enemies at me that one or two bullets and I'm going down. Whereas for them they're bullet sponges. And so when they're throwing like 30 enemies at me and I'm having to single-handedly take them all down, well, me not being a bullet sponge really causes some issues. So like the last couple of chapters have really drug out because I've just been dying so much because I can tell that I'm getting closer and closer to the end, but the story is so disjointed. There is no real arc going on. I don't know what is happening in this story. Characters are jumping back and forth on who they're supporting, who they're not supporting, who they're trying to kill. It is so all over the place. It like at this point, like Shadowfall is really just a tech demo for what the PlayStation 4 was going to be capable of doing. That's really the only purpose that I can see. And of course, by today's standards, nearly 10 years later, doesn't hold up very well. It really doesn't. Like one mission, I'm hunting down a scientist to save her, and then the next mission, I'm being yelled at to kill her, and then like she runs off and is with the Hellgast, and then all of a sudden the Hellgast are helping me out to kill her themselves, and then like it's just there is no sense to be made of the story, which is unfortunate because like while I don't think Killzone 1 through 3 necessarily should get any awards for like its narrative or its story, but they were so much better than Shadowfall. I don't know if you've tried playing any of Shadowfall or not, but like it is just like I would rather be playing more of Eoden Chronicle Rising than Killzone Shadowfall at this point.
Ouch.
Like, yeah, it is just like.
So will you see it through to the end and complete it?
I mean, I think I'm close enough. Like I'm at like I think I'm chapter 8 or 9. So I've got to be getting close. I speculated that it's probably like 10 chapters. But my God, this is just like. It's a good thing Guerrilla stepped away from the franchise and started doing something else because they were not in it for this game. They were paid to make a tech demo for or to make a game in the vein of a tech demo and try to piece together some bullshit story to try to entice people to continue playing because Shadowfall is such a bad game. Like it is very much that quintessential throw a game together for a new system so we can get some sales. So, not enjoying my time with it. It's really like I'm trying to stay on this trend of beating games that I start. Like I'm trying to get better and get back into that routine, and unfortunately, like Shadowfall is really making me
rethink that policy already. It's like, well,
yeah.
And you said it yourself. It's like, well, I'm not enjoying it. And then I think, well, maybe it is not worth it to complete it, even if you are that close. But
yeah,
I make myself suffer sometimes.
So, like, for anybody out there that listens to this and is interested in the Killzone series, just skip Shadowfall. It's not worth it, especially with the servers being down. There's no online multiplayer, nobody else to play against. It's just bots for multiplayer now. So. At least it's got that. You can hop into bot zone and do that thing. But the story is not worth it. So that it is definitely a skip for me.
Unfortunate.
But so yeah, outside of that, I guess I did do a couple matches of Overwatch since the servers will be going offline pretty soon. Not enjoying that either, so stopped playing that.
You just haven't had a lot of good luck this last week.
Yeah, I really should have just picked up Yakuza Like a Dragon again and just try to finish that, because I enjoyed that game. That game was great, and now there's a sequel on the way for Like a Dragon. They've got 2 other Yakuza games coming, which got rebranded or renamed to Like a Dragon. So, like a series that would be good to get back into. But outside of my suffering, what is your? You said like what, 5 games? You've been playing?
Like that. Since we're on the topic of suffering, I guess I'll start with Pac-Man Museum Plus.
Oh, okay, yeah. You've had some fun with that.
Yeah, and so I thought I was done with it. This is the compilation of Pac-Man games that came out a couple months ago now, I think. Whenever I completed the missions for Pac-Man 256, that game's in-game missions to get the related achievement, I figured I was done. In my mind, that was the last thing I was going to do, because it seemed like it was the last thing that was attainable, like realistically in reach. But going through some guides on true achievements, I then saw that there's a method that makes getting the completing the missions for the arcade-style Pac-Man games that are included in the compilation much easier. You know, some of the longer missions are like complete 15 rounds in one sitting, and whenever you're getting to like the early Pac-Man games, you know, arcade-style games, like I think the best I can do in most is like 3 to 4, maybe 5 if I'm lucky. So originally when I was playing through, I was like, okay, well, I'm just not getting those. I'll get as many of the missions completed as possible, but I'm not going to be able to complete all of them because I can't last 15 rounds in these games, and I don't want to try. It takes too much effort to try.
Yeah, like too much suffering.
Yeah, the cost benefit is just not worth it. You know, the thing with this compilation are the achievements are all like incredibly rare, and I don't know if that's because it's a Game Pass game, so a lot of people just downloaded it to try it and then stopped playing it, or if because it's Pac-Man, a lot of people, you know, not a lot, but a lot of people got it because it's Pac-Man and like, okay, I'm just gonna play a little bit of Pac-Man, and hey, I've satisfied myself. I just need to play a couple rounds of Pac-Man every year or something.
Yeah.
But because of that higher player count and low unlock rate, you know, these are like every achievement I get is like all of a sudden like my most valuable achievement. So it is kind of tempting whenever I'm looking at like my true achievements, like true achievements ratio and just completion percentage in general. But anyways, I saw in these guides there's an alternative way of getting some of these where if you lose a life on a stage beyond the first stage, if you just exit out and return to the arcade, like there's a little in-game arcade where you can navigate and actually like design, and then you restart the game, you can actually resume from that stage with as many lives as you had before you lost that life. So you can basically, with one life, just go through the game. Now, the suffering comes from that's still not an easy task. It's easier, but you're still then having to play like, okay, stage 12 of Pac-Man. Whenever the Pac pellets you get turn the ghost vulnerable for a second. That's still not a lot of help whenever they're moving fast and you got a lot of dots. Yeah. So, you know, I was still having to, I've done 3 of the early arcade games so far, and there's like maybe like 4 or 5 I'll be able to do this with, so I'm just about done with it again. I've done 3 of them, and I think it probably took me like an hour each time of basically kind of cruising through the first 3 or 4, 5 stages, but then in that back 2/3 just being like, okay, it's taking me like 20 attempts to get past this stage. So there have been some times where I just sit there and think like, okay, I could be spending this time playing something else. Is getting this achievement really worth it? And in the end, it was, because I sat there and devoted the time to do it. And so I said before, okay, once I get these ones, then I'm done with the game. I'm done. I'm not going to get the rest of the achievements. Now, maybe I will. Maybe, you know, there are 2 games that I really just don't want to play in this compilation beyond the little bit I dabbled with them. Pack in Time, that like terrible European side scroller we played.
Oh God, the one that like the
That
controls
just
were,
controls were like terrible.
awful.
Yeah,
Like,
I think basically to complete all the missions for that entails beating that, and I don't think I want to do that. And then the other one is Pack Attack, which I don't know if we checked out, but Pack Attack is kind of like a Tetris clone, kind of like a Puyo Puyo clone.
I don't think we did.
Yeah, it's like a Super Nintendo or Genesis era, like Tetris, like block busting clone, and I really didn't dig it whenever I doubled it. So I don't have any intention of unlocking all of this compilations achievement beyond like these next couple of arcade games. But hey, I've said that before, so time will tell.
I mean, I ended up putting another hour or two into Aeoden Chronicle Rising after beating the PS4 version, and like what you pointed out in the last episode, the fact that I played enough to get like 80% of the PS5 trophies just because I was like, well, I can import the save and that should blah blah blah. But yeah, like somehow these games just managed to pull us back in.
Yeah, like and one thing that really guides me is, you know, I've got like this obsessive compulsive behavior with true achievements. Like since I've like way back whenever I first got the 360, or maybe it was like a year or two after getting it, I guess, whenever TA came about, or whenever my Discovery then came about. And then again, now that I've got on the Xbox platform again, it's like go in there and be like, okay, like my completion percentage is like a 64%. I just want, like in the games I play, if I can just get more than 64, I am improving my completion percentage. So that's kind of the things I look at. So like in your case, you've got 80% of the Aiden Chronicles PS5 trophy list. It'd be like, hey, the time I'd have to put in to get them all would require playing the game again. I don't want to go that far, but at the very least, I've done better than what my current floor is. So I'm improving a little bit.
Yeah, when looking at the monthly profit and loss reports, we can probably not dedicate resources to spending more time on this game. Like we're good.
Exactly.
So, and I mean that is one thing with Killzone Shadowfall. Like the platinum trophy is a 0.1%.
Very rare.
And for the most part, I think because of Bot Zone, like you can go through and get the multiplayer trophies, but like there's certain stipulations, like complete this chapter. Okay, get a trophy for that. There's also a trophy for do this specific thing in this chapter. And if you mess it up, you have to start the entire thing over again. And I'm not doing that.
Yeah. So I mean, that sort of achievement trophy design is cool because it gets you doing different things. But if there's poor checkpointing, then yeah, it can be a hassle. Yeah.
Like there's one trophy that's in Shadowfall that I swear that I did the stuff for the stipulation, and it was complete the chapter without setting off an alarm. Okay, well I went through the entire chapter, and literally I didn't set off a single alarm the entire time that I was in that chapter. A cutscene started at the end of the chapter, which forces an alarm to go off, and the trophy didn't pop.
Well, and if the alarm is tied to the cutscene, that's probably not what prevented you from getting that.
So, but while playing through it, at no point, because you've got this owl system that is attached to your character, and you can send it out and it'll attack enemies, or it'll stun enemies, or it'll be like a grappling hook, or in some cases, context-sensitive things will pop up, and it can go over and it can like disable things. So I was having it disable anything that was potentially an alarm. So there was not an alarm that went off. So I have no idea what I missed. But I was just like, I'm not playing this chapter again to try to do this one thing or figure out what apparently set this off. So I'm definitely not going to get a platinum in that game, but I'm okay with it.
Well, and speaking of sci-fi first-person shooters, we did complete Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary Edition last week.
That's just it was anybody who's played Halo, they know that to beat the campaign it takes like 9 months. So
yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say, hey, I don't have a lot to say about this because we started it back in March, and we've only ever played it in person, like actual couch co-op. So,
Yeah.
like the story and stuff that happens, it's not a complicated story or anything, but it's not fresh in my mind, so I couldn't really tell you much about it.
And really, like as we were playing, we really couldn't hear what was going on when the characters were speaking, anyways.
Yeah,
So
poor audio mixing
yeah,
with the dialogue.
um,
The music, understandably, gets loud at certain points, and
yeah,
understandably so. Maybe the dialogue could have gotten loud too.
and maybe the music that does get loud, maybe not have it go over when people are talking. Just kind of that sound execution. But for the
Well, yeah,
most part, like I think the thing that you and I liked almost the most, at least for me, the thing that I liked the most was the pushing the button and just changing, like going back to the original graphics, just seeing how it was back, on the original Xbox versus the the anniversary edition.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that was. I remember whenever this version came out, like in 2011 or 2012, whenever, and reading the reviews about it and being like, okay, that is a legitimately cool feature. Just being able to push the button to swap instantly
Yeah,
between the
like,
old visuals and the new visuals. So I mean,
and it,
like you said, we did that all the time. Just be like, well, what did this place look like?
and
What
it
did it look like?
there were some areas that it completely threw me off.
Yeah.
Like you would randomly press the button and like so much of the textures would change. I was like, what? Just where? What? Like, yeah, like it was just really cool just how much effort they went into like redo the game for this for the Master Chief Collection. So
And it kind of shows how deceiving your memory can be, your nostalgia, because,
yeah,
like, I
yeah,
remember playing the game back then, but switching to some of these places, like, I don't remember it being that empty or just that bland. Like,
yeah.
so, hey, kudos to them for actually putting in some effort in this anniversary remaster, but then at the same time, it's like, wow, things have changed in that short amount of time.
We were this easily fooled by a supposed like full world. Like, yeah,
Well, and so we did that last weekend. We actually finished that after recording last week's episode,
in person.
and it was the first time we'd hung out for the first time in 10 weeks, so 2.5 months.
Yeah, yeah.
So besides playing Halo and just hanging out in general, catching up in person, on the agenda was a trip to Claremore and Pryor.
Oh
We
yeah,
stopped
yeah.
at we stopped at the Game Exchange in Claremore, and each town, Claremore and Pryor, had a FTW game company. We haven't hung out in 10 weeks, so it'd been a while since we'd gone game shopping anyways, but my last visit, and likely our last visit to that game exchange, according to my Google timeline, was March 2021, so year and a half. And then my last visit to FTW Game Company in Pryor was March 2020, so 2.5
Okay,
years.
so-
Now, of course, you had a more recent visit there, and fortunately, this one was a
Much
better
better.
experience.
Much better.
And honestly, the last, I can't tell you, last handful of times we've gone game shopping, generally just to vintage stocks, looking for some good deals or bargains during their like buy two get one free sales. We haven't really
Yeah.
walked away with much, and it seems like it's been that way, kind of in line with the pandemic and in line with the secondhand video game market just exploding, costs going up, and like the scarce games getting scarcer. This was the first time where we've gone game shopping. It's like, okay, wait a minute. There are actually a pretty good amount of games out there that are desirable and for a fair price. They're still super expensive games in the cases, but like in almost a miraculous fashion, we each got something at all three of the locations. We were
Yeah.
3 for 3 at every location.
That's we didn't get anything like crazy priced. Like we didn't get what was it? Metroid Prime. Was it
Yeah.
Metroid Prime that was like
$90 or something?
yeah,
Which,
something like that.
like what I was telling you, like
for
it's
just a disc.
insane. Because I remember all the time in the mid 2000s seeing that at Vintage Stock or GameStop for like $4 or $5. Now it's $100. That's got to be like one of the GameCube games with the highest print runs.
for just the disc as well. Like,
Yeah.
you're not getting the entire thing. Like, they're asking like $100 for just the disc.
Yeah. We also
So-
saw Fire Emblem Path of Radiance for 250, and
Yeah.
I can understand that more. That was a late GameCube title. It had a smaller print run, and Fire Emblem was not as popular over here as it was then. Which still, I'm not paying $250 for it.
Oh, yeah, no.
But I can understand that more than Metroid Prime.
But don't you have it on GameCube?
You bet your butt I do.
Yeah.
Got that and the player's guide.
And you didn't have to spend over $200 to get it. So
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the cases where it's like, well, fortunately, I bought it new, so I mean, I paid basically top dollar at the time. But
yeah.
in retrospect, it's like, well, that's actually one of the small percentage of games that has accrued value.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was fun. Like I picked up Fallout 76, the Walmart release. Did not come with the controller skins, so you know.
Your hauls were like basically steelbook.
yeah. Steelbooks and Rage 2. That's for it was
That was
like what,
a couple
$5?
bucks, $6.
Yeah. But got Guardians of the Galaxy for the PS4 Steelbook, got Fallout 76, the Walmart edition, which was the Steelbook, and then Just Cause 4 that has the Steelbook. And I think all totaled, like collectively, I'd have to pull up for like exact numbers, but I think like $30 to $40 is what these were, which,
Total, not a
yeah,
piece.
total. Yeah, total. So all four of them being $30 to $40, so averages out to about $10.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's great. Like, we were able to go out, spend some time together, hit up some game stores, and actually walk away with stuff that we felt was worthwhile.
And I don't know if this is the next thing on your list, but I do remember the Fable situation. Like, you were looking for a certain Fable version, and you wound up thinking you were getting what you thought you needed, but then when you opened up the case, you were like, oh, wait, no, this is what I was looking for.
Yeah. So one of the games I picked up was Fable: The Lost Chapters. The Platinum Hits re-release of the original Fable on Xbox, and it included some expansion stuff that I think the PC version got. And so I'd always thought like, oh, once that gets below $10, then I'll buy it. That's what I'm waiting for. And I was like, oh shoot, this is like $6. Yeah, I'm gonna get that. And so I got that. At that location, I also got Blaze Blue Calamity Trigger on the 360. It was just a couple bucks. And probably the highlight of that store was Record of Agrest War for the 360. It was like $12, I think. But whenever we get back to the car, it's like, okay, well, let me check the discs. And surprise, surprise, Record of Agrest War is actually like the collector's edition version. So it had a soundtrack, but it does not have like the big box or anything. But surprise, 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 Fable Lost Chapters does not have Fable Lost Chapters in the case. It has Fable Anniversary Edition,
which has even more content than Lost Chapters.
So carrying on from, like, I guess after they did Halo Anniversary, Microsoft did the same treatment to Fable and re-released it on 360. And that was the one I'd been wanting to get once it dropped below $10 or something. I don't know. I just confused the two. And, hey, I wound up getting it, I guess. It's a disc-only copy. And so now I've kind of got, like, two entries in my collection. I've got, hey, the disc-only copy of Anniversary, and then I've got basically a lacking game version of the Lost Chapters. But the Anniversary Edition still is like $20 just for, like, the disc. So I got the better deal in that situation.
So yeah, and I mean it was definitely good. I think for the most part, since it had been so long since we had like gone game hunting or even just hanging out, like a lot of time just kind of disappeared. But it was definitely
it was
good.
Kind of a long day. I mean, it's a drive from where we are. Claremore and
Yeah.
Pryor. That's a good drive, but of course, I like those long drives because it gives us a chance to converse or even just listen to a podcast.
And I mean, for the most part, a lot of those drives are kind of what ultimately inspired doing this podcast because of just
Yeah.
like we both have a lot of stuff that we like to talk about in gaming, and it's definitely a situation where we've always we're like, man, if we would just like have mics and hit a record button, uh, you know, we talk about so much stuff when it comes to gaming, and so
Well,
yeah.
and segueing into my next game, one of the things we did listen to on the drive was Sonic Generation soundtrack.
Which is a good soundtrack, even the remixes or remasters or probably
Yeah.
remixes.
New arrangements of classic
Oh.
Sonic games, Sonic soundtracks, and that's essentially what Sonic Generations is. It's kind of like a greatest hits compilation. But I did beat it. I think I actually beat it last time, but I was gonna do achievement cleanup, and I didn't think I'd be able to unlock all the achievements by the time we recorded this. But Jack woke up in the middle of the night Friday night, and that gave me a reason to just push on through. In the session before that, I was going through and collecting all the red rings. There's like 5 red rings in each stage, so it's just kind of like hidden collectibles. I'd got maybe a third, a little under half of my own volition, just without a guide or anything. But at this point, it's just okay. I basically have that. I have a few little odds and ends, and then I'll complete this game. I'll have all the achievements unlocked.
Yeah.
So I was on track to get all the collectibles that night and go to bed, and then Jack woke up and it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to stay up, read with him, do some other stuff with him, and then whenever it was apparent he wasn't going to sleep, it's like, well, let me fire Sonic Generations back up and get these last handful of achievements, and bada bing, bada boom, I'm done with Sonic Generations.
Yeah, and you showed me a couple of the cutscenes and stuff, and
Yeah.
the Sonic's got some pretty good humor to it, like especially with Robotnik, like, and I think you had pointed out that Jim Carrey is a perfect like person to play Robotnik for the movies, just like I mean, just watching the movies, you can tell he's a good fit for it. But just like seeing those cutscenes and stuff, I was like, okay, yep, this is like you can definitely tell that Jim Carrey is really probably one of the few people who could really pull off this such an eccentric character.
Yeah. In retrospect, after playing this and kind of refamiliarizing myself with the Robotnik, Dr. Eggman, it's like, okay, that was perfect casting. They nailed it.
Yeah.
Well, one
so
of the
that's four. That's 4 things.
Yeah, let's see. That was Pac-Man Museum Plus. That was Halo. That was Sonic Generations.
The
I
game
guess,
hunting.
I guess game hunting. Yeah, that's 4. So one of the surprises I alluded to last week, I played through one of them this most recent week.
Alright.
It's a free game on Xbox.
Okay, like through Game Pass or
Not even through Game Pass, just free to everyone.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
this is one thing that's kind of confusing. It's free to everyone, but it's not on PlayStation or Nintendo platforms, and it's not published by Microsoft. Nothing, no connection. It's like an hour long, and it's an easy 1,000 achievements. And so it is Space Science Investigations. It's a game.
Space Science Investigations.
Yes. And I use game lightly. It's more of like just an interactive experience or like an educational tool almost. It's published by NASA.
All right. Well,
So it's like this free experience published by NASA. It's actually developed, I guess internally by iGoal, which is the Integrated Graphics Operations and Analysis Laboratory. iGoal.
all right.
And according to an older page on NASA's website, iGoal's goal is to convey NASA's mission to people of all ages in ways that Word and charts do not. So basically, iGoal is set up to get NASA's message to the mainstream.
Okay. Well, so kind of a PR department, so to speak.
Yeah, and in addition to that, they do computer graphics services for NASA. They do like visual rendering and stuff like that. But so like I said, it's really more of an interactive education tool than a game. And so what it is, you're basically put in the role, it's first person, you're put in the role of an astronaut, and you're up on the International Space Station. And so you just kind of putter through it. You know, you're moving in like the low gravity environment, zero gravity environment, whatever it is. And it's kind of complicated to control because besides going like forward or back, up and down, you can also like kind of tilt yourself, spin yourself around. So it honestly kind of made me a little queasy. And it is kind of difficult to control, kind of get used to. But you're basically just going through the space station, kind of going. It gives you an objective like, hey, go here or go do this. And kind of doing like performing some of the tasks that astronauts do on the space station. And then you get there, you get the object, and it basically gives you like a little video that tells you about like, hey, you know, here's how like the blood flows in the body, or here's what happens to your body in space in a prolonged time and space. So I mean, it's neat. It's like I said, it's right at an hour long. It's easy to unlock all the achievements, and it's educational. So I mean, it's worth checking out.
So do you see yourself dropping your career as an accountant to become an astronaut now? Like, do you feel confident in your... Oh,
No.
okay, well.
No, one of the things that's fascinating from it that, you know, taught me or maybe made me think about again, maybe just think about it in a different way, is like, there is so much we still don't know about how human bodies interact and change in space. Like, there are changes to the human body in space that, like, there's one thing with like the eyesight. Like, whenever you get up there, there's stuff that happens with your eyeball, the retina, and everything that changes permanently the way you see. Like, even whenever you get back down to Earth, your eyes have been changed.
Is it because of gravity and stuff? Like, there's just the weightlessness of...
I don't know that they have an answer. And there's a lot of stuff like that where it's like, you know, this is, you know, we've only been going to space for a relatively short amount of time. Like, there's still just so much we don't know, not only just about space, but about how our bodies adapt to space.
Huh. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah. So it's one thing interesting to ponder. Like, okay, you know, at some point we're going to set up bases on the moon and on Mars, and we're going to live there. It's like, well, yes, at some point, hopefully we will, but there is still so much to learn.
Well, and I guess, you know, it kind of goes to just some of the, you know, there's so much that we don't even know about our own planet right now. Like, you know, as far as like just being underwater and the ocean life that's under there, and like there's so much that we're still figuring out about our own planet, that it's like, are we really ready to start trying to, you know, colonize Mars and the moon when we're still not, you know, completely sure about how things are here on Earth? But
yeah, gotta keep progressing. Even though we haven't done everything here, it's like we can juggle, we can do more than one thing at once.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. That's hopefully they do more of these little. You said it's about an hour and it's just like available on Xbox.
Yeah, it probably takes like 30 to 40 minutes. If you did it fast, you'd probably do it in like 30 minutes or something. Maybe like 40 to 50 to beat, and then like another 10 to just go get like the one or two achievements you missed. But there is another game published by NASA and developed by iGoal, and this one I have not played yet. I'll probably play it this coming week. But this one did see release on Android and iOS like 2 years ago, 2020 I think, and it's kind of the same thing where it's like an educational game, but it's a card game or like some sort of board game.
Oh.
And it's this, you know, again, it's the same sort of thing. You know, probably, I think this one will take a little longer to get all the achievements, maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours. But again, I think it's something where it's there's not really any difficulty to it. And hey, it's free and it's educational.
Well, that's it's cool to see like the educational experiences and stuff, and I feel like you know, we've dabbled a little bit with like VR and just like virtual reality. I think something like an educational the space investigations thing, I think would be kind of cool. It was just having like an educational thing that's in virtual reality, like being up in space or being in a space station or that kind of stuff. Just like learning about all the odds and ends that go into traveling to space. But
yeah. If anything, it'd be neat to see this game, to see this again, calling it a game very lightly, to see this game like fleshed out more. To be like, okay, here is actually like the schedule of what the scientists are doing, the astronauts are doing whenever they get up there. Kind of almost like a life sim or something, or job sim. Like, okay, let's actually perform those tasks. And like you said, in VR, that'd be stellar. That'd be even more immersive.
So was there any like? It's weird that it's only on Xbox, like not on other platforms. But like, was there any like Easter eggs or anything? Was like, or is it just strictly it's just on Xbox?
Yeah. I mean, no affiliation to Microsoft as far as I'm aware. Like the first thing I thought was like, well, that's weird. Maybe because it is developed by NASA. It is using like federal tax dollars ostensibly to make this. Maybe there's some sort of rule or law that says, okay, you can put this out on like, like domestically developed systems and platforms, but not internationally developed. But then it's like, well, wait a minute. The first game, the like that card game, came out on Apple and Android. It's like, well, I mean, I guess those are kind of American, but kind of not. So I don't know if it's
global.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just sort of. Maybe whoever at NASA is making these decisions just viewing Microsoft kind of like, oh yeah, like the Office people, like Windows.
Yeah, like we use Excel all the time here.
Yeah, it's like everyone knows Microsoft.
Yeah, but yeah, it's cool. Like there's maybe instead of like a game, it's just like the space investigation experience or something. I know that's kind of a with some of the VR stuff that releases on the PlayStation Store, a lot of it is like the Kingdom Hearts blah 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 experience. They just tack on experience at the end instead of like
help people like, okay, set your expectations.
Yeah, this is not a full-fledged Kingdom Hearts game in virtual reality. This is just a little tiny snippet that we've made for VR.
And so then the last thing on my list. Sonic Generations, like I said, unexpectedly cleaned that up. Didn't think I'd really have to decide, okay, well, what am I going to play next now? Even though I got a backlog, it fluctuates, not set in stone.
Yeah.
I decided.
Tactics.
No, although I'm not going to lie, I am getting close to. I'm very close to being like, okay, I want to dive into another RPG, and then in my mind it's like, well, wait a minute, Star Ocean's coming out like next month.
Yeah.
But Tactics, I can probably beat. Well, I know I can beat it before that game comes out, and maybe it'll be something like your experience of Tactics. I put some time into it and be like, I've seen what I need to see. I'm done. I don't want to play through it.
There's no trophies I need to collect in this one. I've seen what I need to see.
Yeah. I'm not ruining my completion percentage or anything by just dropping this.
Yeah.
No, so I started up Guanage.
What? Guanage?
Guanage. I think that's how you pronounce it. This is a shoot 'em up from Cave, like basically one of the top tier shoot 'em up developers of Japan. It came out in '99 in arcades originally, and it's on 360. It's available digitally, and it's backwards compatible. I had made, I think 2 years ago, last year, 2 years ago, I was really on a tear going through shoot 'em ups on the Xbox 360. I have a couple like Raiden games and some other stuff, and I had just got a new arcade stick that was compatible with multiple consoles. So it's like, hey, I had to finally play through these shoot 'em ups on the 360 now that I have an arcade stick. And so I did. And then in that process, I was like, hey, I think there's more shoot 'em ups available only on the Microsoft Store digitally. I ought to make a list of all those and start buying them up, especially before anything gets delisted or whatnot.
Yeah.
So I made the list, and I never started buying them. A couple weekends ago, I did buy two. I bought Guanage, and then I bought Strania, which I think is a Microsoft-published one, but not developed by Microsoft. But I bought these two. There's less than a dozen, I'd say, that I have on this short list, and most of them are honestly cheap. They're all like $10 a piece, maybe 15 or 30 for a real expensive one. But these two were $10, and with Sonic Generation just done, it's like, well, you know what? it's only going to take. I'm only going to play them for a couple hours tops, because you do a playthrough of these arcade style shoot 'em ups, and a playthrough is like 30 minutes. So it's like, okay, well, even if I'm going to try and get as many of the achievements as I can, which these games are notoriously tough, so there is going to be a ceiling where I'm just not going to devote the time to getting all of them. Like at the very least, I just want to play through them. I just want to experience them, check them out. So I'll probably only spend a couple hours with them. I could probably even like beat them in a night, get all see all I want to see out of them in a night, and be content. Guanage, I played through it with one character. The arcade mode, it took like 25 minutes. Very cool. It's set in like Japan of hundreds of years ago, and it's not sci-fi or anything. You're not piloting a ship. You're actually like controlling a person who's on the ground, and it's real interesting because it is a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up. So you're walking up towards the top of the screen, but the path actually like goes diagonal sometimes, or it goes to the side because you're actually like walking through these villages or through the forest, and so that's neat. And then the boss designs are really inventive and creative. It's set in Japan of hundreds of years ago, but there are mystical elements. I'm this guy throwing like a million kunai a second, so of course it's not super realistic.
Any enemy crabs with magical weak points?
Not enemy crabs that I can think of off the top of my head. Again, I just played through it once, so I'm not super familiar with it, but there was a giant spider that had the head of a cat.
Okay, I mean that's pretty standard, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's like a massive centipede.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the final boss is this like fetus-like baby creature.
Oh, so does it have any ties like Death Stranding? Like,
no, unfortunately not.
So no Norman Reedus or anything. Nothing.
Well, Norman Reedus may be in this game. I haven't played it with the other characters. Who knows?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's something that you can bring back to the show next week once you've tried all the characters to see if.
Yes. And this seems like pretty decent. A lot of the shoot 'em ups on 360, during that era, I think 360 was seen as kind of the shoot 'em up console. It was kind of a niche thing. It's always been a niche thing, of course, in the West, and then I think even in Japan, it's not super popular. But I don't know if it was because of Microsoft courting of Japanese developers, or if there was just something about the development process and the similarity between the 360 and maybe like the arcades of the past that made it easy to port these games to it. But 360 had a ton of shoot 'em ups, and actually a lot of the Japanese ones are region free. The console is region locked, but you can buy a number of Japanese shoot 'em ups and have them play on any region. 360.
Well, I mean, it was called Xbox Live Arcade, so
yeah.
Maybe they're just like, it's the new age arcade.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about physical games, but yeah, I see what you're saying, like arcade. But so going in line with this, there are a lot of effort, a lot of work was put into a lot of these games, and so this one, like I said, this is just like a $10 digital only release, but it has 3 different modes, and I don't think there's really a lot of variation between the modes. It's not like they're new stages or anything, but it has 3 different methods of scoring, I believe is how it breaks down. And then there's 3 different characters to play as. So, I mean, if you were actually going to go through and like see everything you could in this game, it's still going to take you a couple hours at least. And then, if you really do like get the hook set in you and be like, okay, I want to master this scoring mechanic. All the cave shoot 'em ups, they have these interesting and unique scoring mechanics where it's not just shooting enemies. It's actually, okay, well, you're going to shoot enemies with this guy, and then you're going to stop, because then it's going to cause an explosion, and that's going to cause rings to come to you, and then those are going to like increase your multiplier. So there's a lot of like special techniques you do to really get high scores in cave games. So if you wanted to go down that way, this would be a solid one to do that with. I'm not going to take it that far. I just want to see it, dabble with it, and be better than most. Be better than the majority of people who play these types of games, but not the best.
A very attainable goal, just
It's
beat
kind of
most
like
of the pack.
Yeah, it's kind of like my completion percentage. It's like, okay, well, if I've got like a 64% completion percentage with my achievements, I'd like to at least beat that in every game. I'm going to try and beat that with every game I play.
So, I remember, like, you definitely put a lot of time into like Ikaruga back in the day. And I don't know if you do you still go back to that from time to time?
I have not. So that is one where, yeah, again, like 360 kind of being one of the best platforms for shoot 'em ups. That's where I played it. Like Microsoft themselves published this version of Ikaruga, and with that one specifically, like I put a lot of time into basically like getting a perfect, not maybe not perfect score, but nearly perfect score on the first stage of that game. And like whenever I finally did it, this is after hours of memorizing the patterns, and with that game in specific, switching polarity to like counter the bullets or absorb the bullets. So after putting in hours of time to the memorization and like nailing and execution, to actually do it, it was like so euphoric. And it's like, okay, that is unbelievable. I'm not doing that again.
That's with us, playing Geometry Wars back in the day, like going back and forth, and like getting further and further and further, and just you get that adrenaline going, and it's just like once you die and like there's that stop, it is so hard to get back to like in that groove. So then you just have to like keep going back and back. It's just like, yeah, at some point you just have to be like, okay, that I'm good.
Done. I'm done for the night. I can't get back to where I was.
Yeah, my eyes feel like they're about to start bleeding. They're burning because I just can't blink, because if I blink, then I'm gonna die. And yeah, so. But was let's see, that was 6 items, I think.
Let's see, Halo, or Game Trips, Sonic, Space Science, Pac-Man Museum plus Gowands. Yeah, 6. Okay, I am done. That's
okay,
wait.
So,
no, I'm kidding. I'm done.
I thought there was like, oh wait, but there's more. So. I mean that is quite a week on top of your family reunion and obviously having
on top of just having a life too.
Like
a full-time job, wife, a child.
Yeah, like there's a lot there. So being able to knock so much stuff off of the list is pretty good. Kind of going into the new week. I really think that probably one more session and Shadowfall will likely be defeated and over and back on the shelf. We still have about, as of this recording, we still have about a month left before Star Ocean: The Divine Force comes out, which...
But we will have something to talk about next week about Star Ocean.
Yes, because tomorrow, it just dawned on me that tomorrow the demo becomes available.
Tomorrow or the 20th?
I meant the 20th, yes.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought it was the 19th.
No, I thought it was the 20th.
Well, whether it's
either way, I think you would be correct, because even if it is the 20th, I guess you could probably change your system's region to like Australia and get it as soon as possible.
So yeah, we will have the demo, and I just we a couple episodes back, like you kind of like you were like, we're gonna I've got some kudos to hand out to companies. Well, I've got a kudos to throw out there real quick. Not quite a segment itself, but Square Enix, they get bashed on quite a bit, and I mean it's largely earned, I think. But Square Enix is really good about getting demos out for their games. Like Valkyrie Elysium just got a demo that released. Dalefield Chronicle had a demo release. Even if I don't know as far as like the quality assurance and stuff, but like Ball and Wonderworld got a demo. Stranger of Paradise got a demo. Babylon's Fall got a demo. Like. They are really good about getting demos out, so I've got to give kudos to Square Enix for letting people try their games before they buy, which is something that seems to be getting fewer and fewer from a lot of companies. They're just like, well, we just want you to buy the game, and if you don't like it, too bad. So kudos to Square Enix.
Those demos have progress that carries through to the actual game, so you don't actually have to repeat events.
Yes. Triangle Strategy, the Bravely Default games. I think Octopath Traveler. They had like, so yeah, like, and even with like the newer stuff, like I know Dayfield Chronicle, I think some of that stuff can be carried over. So yeah, like kudos to Square Enix. You don't get very many kudos, but kudos for still providing demos for pretty much a vast majority of your games.
Yeah, and in this case, I am like genuinely interested. Like I just cannot wait to play the demo. And usually, like I don't go out and get a ton of new games every year. And basically, it's like ones where it's okay, like Xenoblade, Star Ocean, this sort of stuff. It's like, well, I know I'm gonna get it, so I'm not even gonna. I'm just gonna turn off my radar. I'm not even gonna pay attention to anything else. I just want to be surprised when I play it. But this is one case where I'm genuinely interested to play the demo, based on the most recent Star Ocean game, Star Ocean 5, which was, last console generation. It was a long time ago. And I have not played a ton of it myself, but just with how poorly it was received, and with them kind of pivoting this one into more of an open world style progression system, seemingly open world style game, I'm just genuinely interested to see, okay, do they stick the landing? Is this something I'm really going to enjoy playing next month when it comes out? Or is it something where it's like, you know what, Jeff? I'm sorry. After playing this demo, I'll get it. I'll still get it, but it may not be top of the list.
Because like at least with you, like I'm not thrilled or super excited about the next Pokemon game, but I know that you are, and that comes out just a couple weeks after Divine Force. So
yeah, I mean. That one seems like a sure bet, though. That's coming from Game Freak. Yeah. It's not going to be something where, wow, they really messed it up somehow.
Well, I mean more along the lines of, like, not putting a whole lot of emphasis or time, or, like, if you play the demo of Divine Force and you're like, I mean, I'm not as excited for it. The fact that there's, like, a couple weeks after Divine Force actually comes out, like, new Pokemon titles that are going to, you're going to sink your teeth into.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Those are definitely going to sap some time, I'm sure.
Yeah, especially if you're not having, that... It's kind of like with me and just kind of, Killzone Shadowfall and our collective experience with Rising, Eowyn Chronicle Rising. It's like... I could keep putting more time into this, but I would rather be playing a game that I enjoy than putting more time into a game that I really don't. So,
yeah. So, and hey, if it is something like the last game, another thing about the last game is like it's only like 20 or 30 hours long, which is like extremely short. It seems for like a Square Enix caliber RPG, I guess I'd say. But even if this one came out, it's like, well, it's an open world game, and they still somehow managed to like make it only 20 or 30 hours. Like, well, maybe I'll burn through that.
Yeah, well,
which I don't anticipate that'll be the case, but I am just genuinely interested to try this.
And I mean, that's I genuinely I like the Star Ocean franchise. I played 1 and 2, and then one of my favorite games is Till the End of Time, which just awesome game. But then I played, I can't remember how much I played of The Last Hope. But
I remember you saying at Game Exchange in Claremore you only played like an hour of it.
It was like a couple hours, but it was
still like I remember you saying that whenever I pointed out the 360 version for like under $10.
Yeah.
Like, well, I've got the international version on PS3 and I don't like it. It's like, how much did you play of it? It was a couple hours. Like it's like a 40, 50, 60 hour game.
At least with the experience that I had, it was just like enemies were getting lost in the like on-screen field and stuff, because like there was just so much, like they were doing too much with color, and it just, like, I don't know, it just really wasn't clicking with me. And then I didn't play in Faithlessness, Integrity, whatever that
5 Integrity and Faithlessness.
Yeah, that weird subtitle. But yeah, very much.
Of course, they also had the mobile spin-off Animasis or whatnot. And that seemed to like come and go in a blink of an eye.
And of course, Square Enix with their crazy names. But yeah, like Divine Force, for just seeing it, it's like, oh, okay. Well, I'm actually really excited for this, and I'm glad there's a demo. Get to check it out, see what's going on with it. and hopefully the demo is good and keeps our excitement going for it. But
yeah. I mean, as someone who's a huge fan of Final Fantasy 12, of Xenoblade Chronicles, those games with like big open environments to explore and just saunter around with an RPG party, like the first trailers of Star Ocean Divine Force were a big pull for me. It's like, oh, that looks like one of those, but with in sci-fi.
Yeah, like actual sci-fi. Like Star Ocean is a sci-fi fantasy RPG franchise, but for the most part, like one thing that you and I have talked about is like it says it's a sci-fi fantasy game. Most of it is just fantasy, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, my big thing with those, at least playing 1 through 3 so far, you know, and a long time ago, they have tons of sci-fi elements, but at some point it seems like, okay, there's sci-fi stuff whenever you start up, you're in the future, whatnot, and you crash landed on a fantasy themed planet, and we can't break the rules and can't tell them who we are or use our weapons or anything, so we got to use swords and shields, and it's like, well, wait a minute, this isn't a sci-fi game.
Yeah, but you know, again, kudos to Square Enix. But yeah, so I will likely have Shadowfall done, play the demo for the Divine Force, which I'm just like with I think. One thing that I'm also kind of equally excited for is just like you and I talking about it, just our takes and stuff on what they're doing with the game, and probably gonna pick up Killzone Mercenary and play Yakuza Like a Dragon, so I can finally get some of those things knocked out too.
Okay, so you may have a pretty big list of things for next week. For my part,
I'm hoping. I'm hoping.
For my part, you know, I'll continue with Gowanage. I'll probably have that done in a day or two. I'll probably just jump into Strania as well. That other shoot 'em up I bought a couple weeks ago. Since I've got the arcade stick out, it's like, okay, well, may as well just knock 2 birds out, 1 stone. And then beyond that, like I said, you know, I am kind of getting ready. I'm in the mood to get a longer RPG again. You know, kind of in the vein of Shining Force. You know, I played Shining Force not too long ago, and that was kind of a surprise. You know, maybe I will fire up Tactics and continue on with my Suikoden games.
Man, I'm just really hoping that demo's good. Like the closer that we get to it, I'm just really hoping that it's good, because like in a year where everybody's still talking about Xenoblade 3, like this is just such a stacked year, but. Because, I know that you're a pretty big fan of Xenoblade. I can't remember how much time you put into Xenoblade X for the Wii U, but...
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, seeing the original trailers of Divine Force, that's what I initially jumped to was, okay, this is like Xenoblade Chronicles X, because it had, you know, basically giant mechs you'd pilot and fly around the world at some point. And that game, I think I plugged like 120, 140 hours into. Like, it's I've only played 1 and that. I have 2, I have 3. I need to get to those. But between 1 and X, so okay, they both got killer gameplay, although I'd probably give the edge to X just because I think I remember it having a little more, and it had some more mechanics and systems that, again, you know, I'm that sort of mechanics-driven person.
You like the crunch.
Yeah, give me the crunchy gameplay systems. And story-wise, you know, easily the edge goes to 1. Story in X, not that great. But then the world, just like the visuals, the world design, the world areas, all the stuff about the exploration was just fantastic in X. So seeing those first trailers of Divine Force and seeing, oh, that's giving me strong Xenoblade Chronicles X vibes, and I loved the stuff that it seems like they're showing in these trailers from that game.
But yeah, it's a really good week for both of us. I'm looking forward to just what all happens over the next week. Like I said, I'm hoping we've got some good conversations to have for the Star Ocean demo. I mean, good or bad.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll be talking about the demo on the next episode.
Yeah, like good or bad.
But
I'm going to play through that demo. Very interested, genuinely interested.
This was episode 10. We have made it through 10 episodes. So next week, episode 11. Already starting the hype train for Star Ocean. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But I've been Jeff from Just One More Level.
This is John from MyBrainOnGames.com.
And we will be back next week. See you, everybody.
Bye bye.